welcome to the Trailblazers podcast, where lately Tyler and I are just talking about ice hockey playoffs. So what we want to talk about today is the Edmonton Oilers, and specifically the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames series recap, and as well we want to preview with the Edmonton Oilers and the upcoming series against the Colorado Avalanche, who they matched really well with during the regular season. So I'm going to pass it off to Tyler to give his original thoughts on the Flames and the Oilers series, and then we're going to go from there. So Tyler, what do you think about how the Oilers and Flames series went? Do you think it went to like what we were talking about and what we predicted, or like completely different?
I think it went completely different than everybody thought it would go. I don't think anybody saw this game getting finished, this series getting finished in 5 games, especially after that first game where the Flames rack up 9 goals, right? Like, it was absolutely astounding that the Oilers came back and won 4 games. And, I think everybody thought for sure, even before the series started, so many analysts, everybody was predicting like Flames in 6, Flames in 7, Flames in 5, stuff like that. Hardly anybody had. I don't think Gretzky even had the Oilers winning the series. So it's like pretty crazy that they pulled that one out of the bag. But it just shows, kind of like we were saying, Mike Smith really showed up in the last 3 games or so there, and kind of shut the door. And then they got a lot out of their depth players on the Oilers. So when that team shows up, that's a good team. It's just they fall victim sometimes to that old Oilers negative feedback loop story that they're just going to suffer a complete collapse, and then you've got Connor McDavid trying to put the whole team on his back. But when everybody comes up and plays their role, that's a hard hockey team to beat, especially when you get into that run and gun, high scoring style, which it seems like Calgary had to start playing that with them because Markstrom was not having a good series for a lot of games there. So then that doesn't work in your favor, right? The low scoring games, like Calgary can kind of lock those up, but the high scoring games, there's always going to be one more goal that the Oilers can score, it seems like. And even in that last game there, when they went up, the Flames went up 2-0 off the start. I hit the group chat. I was just like, 2-goal lead, worst lead in hockey. Everybody knows that. Like, it's the worst lead in hockey. And sure as shit, the Oilers come right back and kind of bring it to overtime and then close out the series. So, it was, definitely a surprising one. It's a great sign of life for the Oilers to be able to battle back from that adversity, from being down in that first game. It was kind of a shocking first game, and I think it wouldn't have surprised anybody if the Flames went on to sweep the series at that point. But it's a good sign of life, and really looking forward to the next series. Colorado, a little bit different team. But Dave, just at first, what are your thoughts on closing out that Oilers Flames series?
Yeah, I mean, so many things that you're saying, completely agree with. The Oilers, they really matched up well against the Flames once they got to play their run and gun hockey style, right? Because I think like some of the things that like really advantaged the Oilers there in like that case is that Flames, like Tyler is saying, is those tight games, the Flames can lock up really good, like if they're playing good defensive systems and if their goaltenders are playing well. So, for example, like that's what we saw in the Dallas series, right? There's good goaltending, good defensive systems, low-scoring games. Okay, the Flames made it out of that series. However, once the Flames got into this series with the Oilers, basically, and like the Oilers, like upfront firepower is way stronger than the Flames. And I mean, you can kind of see this as like the Oilers have elite players. Connor McDavid, Draisaitl. These guys are like the top probably 5 in the world right now, easily. Like McDavid's, I would say, number 1. Draisaitl, like some people are going to say like 3, 4. He's for sure in the top 5. These guys are elite, right? Whereas I don't think the Flames have any guys that are technically elite, right? And I mean, their top players didn't show up, and like those top players also too don't play that same type of like high scoring run and gun like style that like McDavid and Draisaitl and also other supporting cast can do. So that was like super, and also like it was just so exciting to watch. Like even as a Flames fan, it was so exciting to watch like McDavid and Draisaitl, just like the dominance that they had against Calgary. Like you don't see this, right? Like I think Draisaitl put up some statistic. It was like 16 points in a 5-game series. Like I forget if it had happened before or if it like had been like a super long time, or like 4 assists in a period. Like this guy's ridiculously good, right? And then also too, like one thing that I pointed out actually in a video with Tyler is I was kind of like concerned actually the Flames supporting squad would outmatch the Oilers supporting squad. However, I felt like the Flames supporting squad beyond the Backlund Coleman line was pretty non-existent. Like Mangiapane, Toffoli, like those type of lines in Calgary, like these were kind of like non-existent compared to like Oilers. Like I saw a lot of Oilers players like Puljujärvi, as well as Yamamoto or Kyler. Right? Yeah, Yamamoto.
Yamamoto, yeah.
Shit. Yamamoto. My bad. My
It's
apologies.
pretty
My
close to
apologies.
Yakupov. I think that's what
We
you're
might, we
thinking.
might, we, we might cut that one out. Yamamoto. Like, I mean, Yamamoto was hitting everybody on the boards, right? And
Yeah.
like, I think because of this, like, the Oilers just matched really, really well against Calgary, and also too, like, I mean, you got to give the Oilers a lot of credit. They lost game one 9-6. They were down game two 3-0 or 3-1, I think, at one point. And just like as Tyler pointed out, adversity, and they just push. And yeah, even game four or game five down 2-0, and like even win in overtime. So got to give the Oilers a lot of credit. I'm excited to see what they're going to do against Colorado. I think this series is going to be very fun because both of these teams can play that high scoring run and gun style hockey. And I mean, yeah, they're goaltending. Like, I mean, Smith has showed up, so let's see. Tyler, what's your thoughts for the upcoming series? What's going to happen?
I think that the Oilers have, I want to say, a bigger challenge on their hands with Colorado because that is a much more all around, just solid, really good hockey team this year. We've seen it all year. They've been, top of the league. They're good defensively. They're good up front. They've got Nathan McKinnon. So this is a good duel that everybody's going to want to see between Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon. That's going to be fun to watch. They've got a good captain in Landeskog, I think, and he is always shows up. Good leadership on that team. And then of course they got Cale Makar on the back end, which has been playing just absolutely sick this year, last year. So that's a great team that Colorado has. They're not going to let. I think like we saw in the Flames and Oilers series, the Oilers were getting away with mistakes, right? They could give up a weak goal and get back in the game, and they could, go down a couple of goals and come back. I don't think that's going to happen with Colorado, so they're going to make them pay for their mistakes. So the Oilers got to be much more sound defensively and goaltending wise if they're going to have a chance in this series, because I think that Colorado they definitely have the capability of scoring a lot of goals too, so they can match up with them pretty well offensively, even if we got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So I think it's going to be the defense is going to probably win this series, is what I would say. So the supporting cast on the Oilers definitely has to show up, but it's going to be exciting hockey. I'm really excited to see it. And I can't remember too many games, honestly, between the Oilers and Colorado. I don't know if maybe there's been a series in the past, but I don't remember too many matchups between these squads. So it'll be fun to see it in this day and age, that's for sure, with some of the best world-class players on both teams right now. What are your thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with you. And also, like, the thing that you're just saying, like, if these teams have met before in the playoffs, I don't even know, to be honest. I don't think so. It could almost be, like, not since they were, like, Nordiques. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
100% sure, to be honest. I agree, though. I think that Oilers aren't going to get away with their mistakes. So, hopefully after the Calgary series, they're a bit more rested up because they did have a little bit more extra time to kind of get ready and prep for this series. I think probably like the Oilers' key to success in this series is like just like limit the defensive liabilities. If Mike Smith can just do his Mike Smith thing and like continue to post like good games and whatnot and steal a game or two for Edmonton like when necessary, like Edmonton's in a really good spot. Like if Edmonton can go into Colorado and win one of two games in Colorado, like Edmonton's in a great spot in this series, right? They just need to take the tiniest bit of the home ice advantage away from Colorado, which kind of like they did in Calgary, right? Like they did in the Calgary series. To win one game when you're on the road in those first two games, series like wide open from that point. I'd expect to see, it's going to be like a way tighter defensive matchup. Colorado has some really good defensemen. Devontae's, obviously, as Tyler pointed out, Cale Makar, this guy's so sick. This guy's like running the league right now. Colorado does have a ton of firepower up front, right? Like, I mean, there's tons of players there that are very, very good. Rantanen, McKinnon, Landeskog, Kadri, Nikushkin's, like even back doing it again. There's also one guy, my name's not pulling out of my top of my head right now too, but he's like big time firepower up front as well. So this is gonna be a super fun series to watch. I'm expecting it probably go at least 6 games. But Tyler, I'd like to hear your prediction first. Who realistically do you think is making it out of the series, and who do you want to make it out of the series?
Oh man, of course, big Edmonton fan. It's been a long time since we've seen them go on a run like this, so I am hoping that Edmonton comes out of the series. I really hope so. But I feel like Colorado's just got such a good squad this year that I think my prediction is going to be Colorado in 7. actually. I think, the Oilers are going to show up some games. They might steal a game here, a game there. And the goaltending, Mike Smith might have a couple of solid games, but I feel like there just might be one too many defensive breaks and mistakes that Colorado makes him pay for. And then, maybe 7 games for Colorado is my prediction, as much as I would love to see the Oilers come out of this series with a win. What about yourself?
All right, I'm gonna be the Alberta homer here. Hear me out. McDavid right now is like plus 17 in the playoffs. This is insane. This guy will win and dominate games, even when up against McKinnon. McKinnon's a sick player too. He's probably top 5, top 10 in the league. But McDavid's gonna steal some games for you. I'm thinking Edmonton in 6. They're gonna lock it up at home in the 6th game. I know it's crazy. Hear me out. And, they're going to bring the cup back to Alberta. It's done. It's locked in. It's going to happen. Maybe.
Wow, lock it in.
But remember, I can say this because I'm a Flames fan, so I'm not actually jinxing anything. But if an Oilers fan said this, it might be a little bit sketchy. So it's safe. I can say it.
Yeah.
It's not going to do anything with, the hockey voodoo or anything like that, so we're safe. But, yeah. I'm hopping on the Oilers bandwagon now as somebody who's born in Edmonton. I still support Edmonton. So let's go Oilers. Let's see what happens. I'm thinking Oilers in 6. Let's go.
Yeah, everybody save the tattoos for after Oilers actually win the Stanley Cup. Yeah. Don't jinx it by getting one beforehand. It'd be one of those guys,
Don't get a tattoo before the final game of the Stanley Cup final is played. Just series by series, everybody. Yeah. Please have patience. If you can get your tattoo afterwards.
I got one little bonus thing I wanted to ask about, because I think maybe it played an interesting role in the last series against Calgary, and I'm wondering if you think it's going to do something in this Colorado series too. When they went back to Edmonton for Game 3 in that first game, Daryl Sutter had a quote after the game, and he said that a few of their young guys hadn't experienced like an atmosphere like that before, a few of their younger players, I guess. So I wasn't there, but I can imagine that Rexall was just rocking, and it was a crazy playoff atmosphere, and to the point at which it seemed to, he alluded to the fact that maybe it intimidated or was in the head of a few of the younger guys on that team. Do you see something like that having the same effect on this Colorado team? And do you think that's actually what happened to the Flames there in that game?
It's a good question. I think it does. I think Tyler and I maybe we're a tad biased because we're from Edmonton. We know how crazy Edmontonians are about hockey. I think I said this in the last podcast. My impression is Edmontonians are a little bit more crazy about hockey than most other places, to be honest. There's really not that much to do there in the wintertime except cheer for the Oilers. It's really cool. So I think it would, and I feel like those buildings get loud. Edmontonians love to party. Albertans in general love to party. So people are pre-gaming, they're going to the game, they're rowdy. I also I can't say it too objectively because I haven't been to Colorado and I haven't experienced the Colorado environment, especially in a playoff game. So I feel I'd just be almost a bit of a Canadian homer if I was Edmonton's environment is so good, it's for sure impacting the outcome of the game. But honestly speaking, I think it does. But I think every team gets this home ice advantage. So this is why it's such a benefit is because you go to the opponent's arena, they're obviously cheering on their home team. And I think too is that it really depends because if long as the crowd can channel the energy at the right time, obviously it can have an impact. I think in certain situations, if it's so loud and I'm not a professional athlete, so I can't say perfectly, but I would assume if, there's 20,000 people just yelling and cheering and whatnot, it could definitely make you not focus. I think what about you, Tyler? What do you think?
I think that, definitely if Calgary hasn't been in, playoff atmospheres like that very much. It's been, 31 years since the Battle of Alberta. So for sure, the young guys on the team that are just getting into the league, that might play a factor for sure. And I remember being in the crowd in the 2017 run, I guess, for the Oilers, and it was crazy there. Definitely a big difference from the regular season. So I can see that affecting some players for sure if you haven't experienced that yet. But I feel like this Colorado team, there's few too many professionals on there that are, just veterans, and they're not going to be fazed whatsoever by it at all. So I don't see that having as big of an impact as perhaps it may or may not have had on the Flames. in that first round. So I think as crazy as it's going to be, we're still going to see a great matchup between two teams here. So anyway, I think that's all I got on this matchup coming up here. Dave, what about you? That's everything as well? Right on, man. So thanks everybody for listening again. We hope you enjoy this upcoming series. Hope you enjoyed the Oilers Flames series. And yeah, we'll be kind of chatting about this for as long as the Oilers make their run here. So sorry for the delay again and getting back to our other topics. But hey, that's the way it goes. That's all Dave and I are focused on right now outside of working hours, it seems like. So right on. Everybody have a good one, and we will catch you at the next episode.